Hi, welcome back to the Budget Mindset. I'm Sandy, the face behind the Budget Mindset, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how to do a budget step by step. I'm going to try and break them down into 5 easy to follow steps so that you yourself can do your first budget. Before we start, I think it's important to kind of know the basics of budgeting. So I'll link the video where I talked about, how to start a budget kind of basics, so you can have a look through that. But there are different budgeting methods, and other different people budget in different ways. I personally budget every time I get paid because it's easier for me to budget money that I have actually in the account, and so that's when I budget. You may decide to budget monthly, you may decide to budget weekly, you may decide to budget bi-weekly. Everyone's different. I know budgeting can be very daunting, but once you kind of know these 5 basic things, then budgeting can be easier for you. Number 1 is to know your income, and believe it or not, some people don't even know how much they have coming in. They may be able to give you kind of a round figure or near about, but if you ask them exactly down to the penny how much money you have coming in, if they have a fixed income. And that's the thing as well, you need to know whether your income is fixed or variable. If you have a variable income, what I like to do, because some of my income is variable, I think it's best to kind of budget on the lowest amount that you have previously received. If you have a variable income, go through your bank statement, go through your pay slips and look at the lowest amount that you've received and budget according to that. If you at least know the minimum amount that you have coming in, and then anything else that comes in extra is a bonus. List everything down. So you write all of your income, and then you will list the date, the amount, and how often it comes in. You need to know how much money you have coming in, otherwise you won't be able to budget because there'll be nothing there to budget with. Once you have your total income, you need to list down your essentials. The second step in budgeting is to cover your fixed expenses. So your fixed expenses, I like to refer to them as your bills and payments. These are things that you have to pay, such as your rent, your mortgage, council tax, car insurance, your home insurance, your gas, electricity, school fees you have to pay. You need to cover your essentials first. Included in the bills and payments should also be minimum debt payments, and also savings as a minimum. I include a minimum saving of 10% as a bill, because that way it's not going to be something that's left to the end. So your bills and payments should include your minimum debt payments, and also at least some minimum savings. The reason why you want to cover your fixed expenses, your essentials first, is because they need to be paid. And I always say this: I can finesse a grocery budget, I cannot finesse a bill. And if you don't pay your bills, guess what? You're going to be in trouble. If you don't pay your rent, you're going to be in rent arrears. If you don't pay your car insurance, you can't drive your car because it's illegal. So you have to cover your bills. I know life is more than just about paying bills, but there's no point in spending your money before you take care of the basics, because you need a roof over your head, you need gas and electricity, you need hot water. Do you know what I mean? You need to have car insurance if you have a car, so you can drive your car. You need to have all those things. You can reduce your bills, you can reduce them down. You can get rid of your Netflix, Amazon Prime, you can get rid of your Spotify, you can change suppliers and go to a cheaper gas, electricity, you can go to a cheaper broadband. You can do all those things to reduce your bills, but once you reduce them as low as you can, they need to get paid. I can finesse a grocery budget. I always say this: I cannot finesse a bill. So it's just best to cover them, get them out the way, and then you can work with what's left over. Once you have your total bills, what you do next is take your total income minus your total bills, and you will have a leftover. You are able to use what is left over for your variable spending. Now, variable spending are things like groceries, eating out, clothes shopping, beauty shopping, so anything else that you need to spend your money on. These are expenses that you have a little bit more control over. Some people like to put their grocery into fixed expenses. I personally personally don't. I just keep it in variable expenses because, like I said, I have more control over my groceries. You can buy cheaper brands, you can meal plan, you can shop at kind of discount stores like Aldi and Lidl. There are things you can do to get your spending down. So this is why they're called variable spending, because they vary and you have a little bit more control over them. Now, with what's left over, I like to actually do two things. I like to split it between my saving pots and priorities. Saving pots are just sinking funds. If I asked you, do you know what a sinking fund is? Most people, unless you kind of know about budgeting, will go, no, I don't know what a sinking fund is. If I asked you, do you know what a savings pot is? You go, I don't know, but I assume it's a pot of money that you save. I like to refer to sinking funds as saving pots. They are pots of money that you save for things in advance that you know are going to come up, to make it easier for you to pay for those things when they do come up. So things like Christmas, birthdays. Well, I'm a mum of 4, so I have back to school. That's a category that I often spend every single year. And so what is left over, I like to prepare for the future by saving some in sinking funds and also leaving some to go towards, you know, any extra priorities I have, such as paying off debt or saving for an emergency fund. I would say priorities should be to save for an emergency fund. So if you don't have an emergency fund, try and use anything left over after you've covered your bills and your spending to build up an emergency fund, because that is really priority. You know, with everything that's happened in the last year, with, you know, lockdown and everything like that, the importance of having an emergency fund, a rainy day fund, I think most of us are really aware. Can't control everything, so it's really important to have a pot of money that you may need if an emergency was to rise. So if you don't have an emergency fund, prioritize getting an emergency fund. If you have an emergency fund, then what I would do is split what is left over after you covered your bills and spending. I will split it 50-50 between saving for some events coming up, such as Christmas, birthdays, and also paying extra towards debt or any kind of extra priorities you have. At the end of it, if you still have any money left over after you've done that, then you can leave some in the bank as an account buffer. I use what is known as a zero-based budget, and that means all the income that I have come in minus all of the expenses equals 0. So that means everything that has come in has been accounted for. There's 0 money left over. Everything has been given a job. So that is it. That's how you do a budget. A budget is really simple to do. It's literally trying to balance income and expenses and just trying to get a balance between the two. Hopefully this was easy to follow and now you know how to do a budget. Comment down below if you need any other help or if you want to know anything else about budgeting. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye.